that's been dragging you down and get up in the air. Just pretend that you can fly. You'll never know if you can till you try.
Hi, and welcome to Cannabis Helps Dementia. I'm Chella.
I'm Dave, and right up front we'd like to say that we're not doctors or medical professionals, and nothing you hear in this podcast should be considered medical advice.
Right.
We're not experts, but throughout this podcast series, you'll hear from doctors, nurses, research scientists, administrators, other caregivers, and people living with dementia about how cannabis helps.
Like it did for our family.
That's right.
After my mom was diagnosed with dementia, we were thrust into family caregiving and became fierce advocates for people living with dementia,
including their access to cannabis medicine.
Dr. Babak Baban is a highly accomplished researcher and has been studying CBD and cannabinoids at the Dental College of Georgia at Augusta University for years, where he is Associate Dean for Research, a professor, and immunologist. One of Dr. Baban's studies on how CBD helps reduce cytokine storms in COVID19 made headlines last year, and that's how we first noticed his work.
More recently, I was blown away by a revolutionary study on mice that had severe familial Alzheimer's disease. 2 weeks of high-dose CBD seemed to reset how proteins are made in those Alzheimer's-impacted mouse brains.
Dr. Baban has published more than 100 peer-reviewed articles, presented at dozens of national and international research conferences, and has served on international study sections and editorial review boards. He is a member of the American Association for Cancer Research, American Heart Association, and the International Cannabinoid Research Society, among others.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Oh my goodness. Of course. It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
Cool.
And this is Dave.
I'm Dave. Hi, Dr.
Yes.
Baban. Nice to meet you. Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Of
We're
course.
so excited about, of course, we're definitely into cannabis helping dementia, but just all of your research around CBD with all the pandemics, because of course, Alzheimer's and dementia is a pandemic too. But it's amazing. So yes, thank you for joining us today. Appreciate it.
They call it silver tsunami.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
So that's or gray tsunami, really, they call it. But,
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Dr. Baban, the Medical and Dental College of Georgia at Augusta University does lots of research on cannabinoids and the endocannabinoid system. How did you come to be interested in studying these things?
Sure. It was 2000. I am immunologist.
Yes.
And in immunology, by nature, the first thing we learn is the word inflammation. So I always tell my student, inflammation is like love. Everybody talk about it. Nobody knows what it is really. When something is associated with inflammation, it has our curiosity always. It was just give you the background. It was 2014. One of my friends who has a private company in Canada, he approached me. He asked me if I have done anything with the medicinal cannabis, with the cannabis. I said, no, I have heard about it, but no, not really. So he asked me to do some experiment in our animal model for him. So that's how I started really. And at the time, I had a surgery resident in my lab, Erica Zimmerman, Dr. Zimmerman. She was trying some of our compounds, not CBD, on melanoma model. So we tried the CBD on melanoma. Mm-hmm. in mice. Mm-hmm. And first, I didn't believe the result, really. I was very skeptical. We repeated it. And that is our first paper, which was published in Journal of Surgical Research. Yes. So we saw very, very promising, encouraging result. And we're still working on it, really. But all other exciting fields really diverted us a little bit from melanoma, but that was the start when we noticed actually the question should be, I always like to be asked, how we missed it. I mean, that's how we have missed it. Really. This is the issue, really. This is not something new. This is not. Has roots in history. 6,000 years ago, Egyptian have used it. I mean, Chinese have used it so many years ago. Persian have used it. When you go to the history, but in last 2 decades, we have basically noticed that we have missed this potential, and we are trying to find the mechanism. Now, I think now we have passed what it is really. Now we are doing how it does it. Really. That's the difference. Now we are asking for the how it does it. And I think that's the beauty and challenge of it, that we are. But in the meantime, I think some misinformation and how can I call it? We lack of education really has put a unnecessary. I don't want to call it fear or. I mean, it goes back to education really. If we can educate, and if we can provide the good scientific data to back our claim, really, I think it is a challenging way, but it's doable.
Absolutely. So I imagine that the endocannabinoid system is part of the curriculum where you teach.
Well, if you're talking about as the classic teaching to the class, yes, I will. I am covering it, for example, for the graduate school, not as a topic right now, but we cover it as a potential, powerful, potent immune modulating mechanism. Yes, I am teaching them even in the pre-doc class, for example, for dental student, I teach it to them, but within the course of immunology. We don't have a separate course for now. I hope we can have that capability to have it. But as you know, many university and good institutes really, they are providing the training, the certificate for medicinal cannabis. But as official course, no. But within the courses, yes, I do that.
So, I mean, it's kind of alarming to us that only very few medical schools in the country teach about the endocannabinoid system. It seems weird that you teach about the nervous system or the skeletal system, and this endocannabinoid system is like mysteriously left out of the textbooks.
Yes. So let me just to add one thing to your previous question. In terms of teaching, however, my lab in Augusta University is fully only we are focusing on the medicinal cannabis. So resident students, Ph.D. student, I have a Ph.D. student who is the first author in our paper on the Alzheimer. That's his project. So my lab is fully only for specifically teaching and training on the medicinal cannabis.
That's awesome.
Yes, that's why I said classic teaching,
right.
Not, but in our lab, everything, the whole resources and all focus our our team is on the medicinal cannabis. Yeah. But and then back to your question. Sorry, say it again, the question, about the endocannabis, I think you mentioned.
Oh, just that the endocannabinoid system, I'm curious that the endocannabinoid system is not part of the curriculum in medical schools. It's just odd to me.
Yeah, well, yes. Again, I mean, I think sooner or later we have to teach it, because first of all, endocannabis system is one of the oldest systems in humans. So again, my question is always, how have we missed it? So first of all, endocannabis system is part of our immunologic and physiologic system. It is universally presented in certain strategic organs in the body. Brain, the headquarter of our body, is enjoying presence of the endocannabis system.
Mm-hmm.
That's true that the phytocannabinoids, which what we mainly you hear in the news and in the people are interested, for example, what we get from the cannabis plant, they are not, the THC, yes, but CBD is not really directly affecting the endocannabis system. However, indirectly, of course, it affects it like all other systems in the body. So sooner or later, we have to teach them. This is going to be one of the, when I started 2014, I think it was only 11 states which they were allowing the medicinal cannabis. Now we have almost 48 states with the 49 states with the medicinal cannabis I'm talking about.
Yes.
So sooner or later, it has to be taught. It has to be, I mean, our physician has to know it. I'm, for example, working with my colleagues. They are surgeons, they are neurologists. The patient go to them and say, I'm taking it and I feel good.
Yeah.
So if they do that, I mean, what can they do? So it's better for us to regulate it, basically, to bring it under a, like a medicinal regimen. And so the physician knows what they take, basically. So yes, I think it is inevitable. We have to start teaching it. Yes, absolutely.
Before we get into the studies that you've been doing recently, do you find it easier to study CBD since it has been descheduled essentially with the hemp law? Is that primarily why it's CBD is where you're looking as opposed to studying THC as well?
The research really has not been, because I am working in an academic, state-sponsored academic environment. Our research has, the only thing was time really before we get the DEA license and those. So personally, I haven't had a difficult time for getting license, but that is different. We are in an academic environment. We solely use it for the research purpose. And yes, it is easier because society shows there is a demand by people, by community, by society. And if there is a good science, when we produce science, so it's easier to connect to the people, yes. It's easier to educate people. However, the challenge really comes when it goes to the, even not small clinical trial, but big clinical trial, yes, we have. Because the law in 2018 really by Department of Agriculture, what you call it, farm law, yes, it basically brings some relief, but however, it's still FDA is, I mean, not only FDA really, and IRB, the local IRBs also are a bit skeptical about it. That's the challenge about it, which part of it is understandable. We can understand the concern because while there are so many good science and evidence, scientific evidence, in the meantime, you see many, non-scientific claims and exaggerating the effects. And nobody claimed that one single drug is the magic bullet and it will, solve everything. But that should not be a reason to not letting the drug to be a new compound to be introduced, to be tested, to be criticized, but to be improved and, to use the, every new drug has this thing, but yes, this complexity and diversity of the cannabis plant needs more attention, of course, but complexity and diversity brings option also. When you have option, you have more power. When you have more power, basically you can choose better. Yes, it is like a box of, full of options. Of course, part of it has to be regulated. The part with the psychoactive problem, issues that has to be regulated, but part of it also can be used easier, can be mixed with other things. So we need a scientific approach with education. I think we'll be fine. Yes.
Yeah. The raw form of the plant is not psychoactive. So, are there any studies in the works studying CBDA, the acid form, or THCA that has no psychoactive impact?
So yes, I mean well, myself really, I haven't done like that. We are, as you mentioned, we have 113 known cannabinoids from this, and over 648 compounds in this plant.
Yes.
So CBD and THC are the most well known, but for example, my lab right now have focused on other cannabinoids like cannabichromine, CBC. We are working on it. We have mixed it with other things. Cannabichromine has more actually receptor in the body than CBD, straight receptor. So those are the angles which we are working. I have never really used the raw plant, but I'm sure there are good institute and labs which they are working on it.
Sure.
But myself really and my team, we are working on the specific cannabinoids in different form. For example, CBD in isolate, full spectrum, broad spectrum, but also we use with cannabichromine, for example, CBG. We are working on that combination. Even THC, we have tried very limited one with it. We are working very in more molecular, cellular, with the potential for translation into the.
Very exciting. Really, very exciting stuff.
Super exciting, yeah.
Let's start talking about the Alzheimer's study that brought us together. It's a mouse study in Alzheimer's disease published in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease a couple months ago. It's called Cannabidiol Ameliorates Cognitive Function via Regulation of IL-33 and TREM2 Upregulation in a murine model of Alzheimer's disease. This is incredible. I just about jumped out of my skin when I read this. And of course, I expected it to be front page news everywhere, and nobody's talking about it. The findings suggest that 2 weeks of high-dose CBD treatment enhanced function and mitigated the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease and stopped or slowed cognitive decline. Could you tell us a little more about it?
Sure. So thank you for noticing our study, but we have had a good, local coverage by local stations, TV stations.
Yes. That's the only ones I saw.
Last week also we had a good coverage. I think it will be aired this Friday on WSP Atlanta. They are big, and then. Georgia Public Radio had a short, very few seconds on our study.
Yes.
Yes. So, yes, the model is very unique. The model we use is one of the best. It is actually the best model for Alzheimer. However, there are certain concerns about it. So the model we use is a mouse called F.A.D. mice, familial Alzheimer disease mouse. So these mice have exactly 5 human genes which have been knocked out from them. So they are like a human which doesn't have those genes, which each of them, when it is getting knocked out, when it is eliminated in human, or it is get dysfunction, so the cognitive function get impaired. So one gene, you have a certain level of the cognitive impairment. 2 gene, you have certain level, 3 gene. The problem with these mice is they have all 5 knockouts. So it is very, very severe form of Alzheimer. That's what I'm trying to say. That's why they call it familial Alzheimer disease. This is usually very small portion of people with Alzheimer. that they inherit it. It is inherited one from the family, and usually people get it when they are very young.
Mhm.
While the Alzheimer, what you see as the Alzheimer, typical Alzheimer, is basically starting from 65 and older.
Mhm.
So these mice have a full spectrum of cognitive dysfunction. The only criticism to our study is no human get this severe like these mice, which exactly was what we wanted, because we wanted a severe form.
Right.
I always like to see what this compound, whatever I try, does to the severe form. Then we come down, basically. If
Right.
it works for this, yes. So this is the mouse we picked. It is very well known for the familial Alzheimer. It's called F.D. with 5 F.D. they call it. It's very advanced Alzheimer. They sometimes in the cage, they turn around themselves for hours and hours. They cannot even walk. So it's very nice model. So we started treating them. We very simple. We made them 2 groups. One group we gave them just placebo, nothing, and then one group we gave them just the saline basically, and one group we injected them with the CBD, and for 9 basically doses, for 8 doses, we gave it to them every other day.
Mhm.
And from the second dose, we saw the improvement. The behavior changed. The eating was better. We tested them in terms of behavior. So we had 2 measures basically. One is the clinical and what you see and movement, and one is the basically cognitive function, and one is molecular level, which we look at the certain proteins, markers, and molecules in the body. So in terms of behavior, we did the open field, which basically is one of the behavior tests. You put the animal in an area when they don't have the direction and they are impaired cognitively. They turn around themselves. They don't have any tendency to go and explore their area. So with the CBD, they improved significantly, as you saw in the paper.
Mhm.
We test them with the novel object. So when somebody has impairment in the cognitive function, the animal doesn't have any, eagerness and any tendency to go towards a new objective thing. They like to stick to the old one. So when you change the object, we saw with CBD, they spend exactly the same time as a normal mouse. Yeah. And these are genetically modified. So these are not even epigenetic. So that is the model. And then when we looked at the molecular level, so 2 main cells, which in the brain, they take care of the, so the first thing for us was amyloid plaques. So our body, as a normal human, our body produces amyloid beta. It is one of the proteins which in our body is deposited per day, but there are certain cells in our brain, especially microglia, that's what it's called. So microglia, micro means small, and glia basically is their, these cells have the capacity to eat small things. That's what they call, and they are small size basically. They have, so we have macrophage in the body, which they eat the big things like microbes, viruses. And then we have microglia, which they are very similar to macrophages, but with certain differences. And they are in the brain and in the eye usually. So the brain one is responsible for cleaning the environment from amyloid beta in human. So they use this capacity to eat the little things and they clean the brain environment. So in most humans, these are working nicely. In people with the cognitive function, for some reason we don't know, they lose this capacity. So it is basically exactly like what the public sanitization and those recycling trash, and those do in the morning. They come, they pick up the trash per day, and then they clean the environment, and then you fill it up again, and they come again next week. So here, body does it every day. Every day, based on your cognitive function, you have this amyloid beta as a product of your daily work. It will be deposited in the brain, and these cells are responsible for cleaning.
And mostly at night, right?
Mostly at night. Yes, absolutely.
When you're sleeping.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
So for some reason in Alzheimer patients, still we don't know fully. We know we have hypothetical theories really, but we don't know for sure. But for some reason they are impaired. So
they're on strike for some reason.
So the amyloid beta, instead of being cleaned, basically being cleared from the brain, they stay there. And then we have the amyloid beta accumulation, and that puts a lot of changes in the microbiome, in the physiology of brain, and that's why the cognitive dysfunction happening, basically. So we focus on these cells. We wanted to see what is the difference. First, we saw a huge reduction in amyloid beta when the mice were treated with CBD. So the level of the deposited one was reduced significantly. Then we had we checked the cells. We saw two major. One is TREM2, which is a receptor, and it is on the myeloid cells, which are these microglia myeloid cell. So they were basically very low in the Alzheimer mice. And with CBD, this receptor came up towards the normal level, which is essential for the function of the microglia. So
they just briefly, they created more?
They express more, yes. So in the Ph.D. mice, which are the Alzheimer mice, the level of the expression on the surface and inside the cell is very low expression, or close to no, and some of them close to zero in these microglia cells. When we treat them with CBD, we see the re-expression of this comes up again, so they get activated. So that was one new finding.
It's a big deal, big giant deal. If this were discovered with any other compound, it would be front page news everywhere.
Yeah. And then the second thing was the IL-33. It is interleukin 33. It is a protein which we are interested in it because it is very mysterious cytokine. Cytokine means a protein really in the brain. And we noticed that in Alzheimer patients, we knew this. Other teams, other labs have shown that in Alzheimer patients, the IL-33 level is very low. So we checked it, and we are interested for two reasons. One, it has been reported already that IL-33 has a role in Alzheimer. And secondly, because we are looking into certain cells in the brain, which we call it ILC, innate lymphoid cells, which is not the topic here, but IL-33 has a big role in promoting one class of those cells. So we are interested in IL-33. So we decided to look at IL-33. We saw the IL-33, yes, the previous finding was correct. It was very low in Alzheimer mice. When we treated them with CBD, the IL-33 went up. So remember, the interesting thing here, people have to pay attention, and especially to educate people, is, first of all, I want to say this is experimental model. This is something which we have all control over it. We know how much to give them. So I'm not saying these things, although it is very exciting, very encouraging, very positive, but because I get so many telephones, so many calls, so many requests, where should I go and buy it and take it? No, it is not like that. You have to consult with your doctor right now. At this time, we don't know many things about it. We know a lot of things about it, but we don't know many things about it also. But that aside, in immunology, remember, we have two terminology which we always even among the experts, we use it by mistake. One is immune suppression, one is immune regulation. So in immune suppression is what you need during, for example, kidney transplant. When you go to have a kidney transplant, they have to suppress your immune system in order for the graft to survive, the transplant to survive and don't be rejected. So certain graft with a minimal or full immune suppression, they basically can stay, the patient get treated with the antibiotic to compensate for the immune system. So that's immune suppression. Immune regulation is different. Immune regulation does not suppress or switch off the immune system. It basically brings back the balance. If it is high, it brings it to the normal, bring it down. If it is low, it brings it up. CBD is immune regulator. It is not suppressing your immune system, but it basically brings back the homeostasis, the immune balance, because the Alzheimer really, the essence of Alzheimer is imbalance in immune system. It is a chronic inflammation in our brain. Chronic inflammation for different reasons. I mean, we don't know why this inflammation starts, but for whatever reason which we are working on it, when it happens, we have a chronic inflammation. That's why they call it neuroinflammatory disease. So we have this chronic inflammation in the brain. Again, I'm telling you this, that we have three organs in the body, brain, eye, and heart, which we call it immune privilege. That means, like 30 years ago, you talk to anybody, they were saying there is no immune system in the brain. But now we know we have immune system, but it is regulatory immune system. It basically take care, because brain is the headquarters for our body, for our function. So the nature has put this power around us, which called immune system. It knows, but for example, if you go to kidney, we have in lung, we have a huge presence of the stimulatory immune system. When you go to the brain, we have regulatory immune system. So inflammation is not good for the brain. So that's why we call it regulatory immune system is there. And that's why CBD is working good there, because this is an immune regulator. It knows how to bring down the inflammation and tension in the brain. And that's one of the mechanisms which we are working on. So we noticed that, yes, IL-33. So IL-33 is very dichotomic. It can be depending on the microenvironment of the brain. It can help inflammation, or it can bring down really the inflammation. In this case, what it does, it is produced by other type of cell in the brain, which we call it astrocyte. They look like star. That's why they call them astrocyte. They have a long dendrititis, which comes out. So they are mysterious cells. They are plenty in the brain. Still, we don't know many things about them, but we know they are the source of IL-33. So it's the main source, not the only source. Then these astrocytes are in a very strategic place in the brain. They are between outside and inside the brain. So this IL-33 they produce, it affects the microglia, which were cleaning the amyloid beta. So when we don't have enough IL-33, these microglia cannot be stimulated to clean up. So that's why the inflammation goes up, because we have more trash around these cells, the environment is not right, and then the immune system is confused, doesn't know what to do, and that's why it comes. So IL-33 gets regulated, upregulated by CBD. It goes and affects, that's the hypothesis we have, it affects the TREM2 in the microglia. TREM2 gets activated, and we have the cleaning of this amyloid beta. And we see the clinical manifestation is improvement in the cognitive function. So that is how we work on it. I'm sorry, I went a bit maybe out of.
That's great.
But
We are here for this.
But I just want to say it is very sensible. It is very common sense, actually, not even science. But when you come to the science, it has to be, I cannot simplify it more than that. It is simply complicated. But
So, but in just to kind of recap, it's working in two different ways by upregulating the IL, the
33?
interleukin 33, increasing it, and it's also creating more receptors or making the receptors more available to bring it in, and then that is turning on the cleaning mechanism. But it also it does both. It will bring it. It'll regulate the system. So if it needs to come up, it'll come up, and if it needs to come down, it'll come down. So it's effective for both.
absolutely, that's why they call it immune modulator or
Right.
immune regulator. So CBD is a very potent, capable immune modulator. However, again, I'm saying it has to be many things we don't know about its function. It has to be very carefully more study about it, but there is no doubt that it has many beneficial effects. There is no doubt about it. Yes.
More studies.
Excellent. Of course, more studies, but we do know that this plant hasn't killed anybody in as long as we know about this plant. So that's kind of exciting.
It's relatively safe, yes.
Yes. Can you please define what high doses of CBD means in this model?
Sure. So, there are three different aspects with this question we have to answer when you say the high dose. So first of all, there is really no specific dose by any agency or anything especially for cannabidiol, for CBD. So it can go from 2 milligram per day for an individual. Some people use 800 milligram per day. And based on the literature, when you go through it, they have checked up to 1,000 milligram. Really, they haven't seen any serious effect in most people who have used it. So the dose is relative. The dose is relative based on so many things. That's one thing. The second thing, when we're talking about the high dose in this paper specifically, a human being is like 120 to who knows how many pounds. A mouse is 30 grams. So yes, so a human being is up to 100 years we have lifespan. A mouse is 24 months. So 1 week in mouse is 1 year in human almost. So when we're talking about the dose is based on the weight, genetic background, and also the lifespan, how many days this person will use it. So when we use high dose, that means if you look at it in the scale of small animal like mouse, 30 grams, and a human is basically between the normal weight is between 180, well, in female and male are different, so something 60 kilogram, which is 60,000 grams. So the lightest one you can find the human is about 50,000 grams.
Right.
And we are talking about 30 grams of the
Yes.
the whole thing. So the dose we used was 20 microgram per ml, which is huge for it is like a human being which using 400, 500 milligram per day.
Okay.
So when we use the term high dose, that means the human is not using 30 milligram, what is very common these days. You see 30 milligram, 35 milligram, 50 milligram. This is a dose like 400, 500 milligram.
Right.
Which is not something that would be atypical in some type of therapeutic treatment for humans. If it was,
it is a bit high for human, but I have had people calling me. They said, for example, my mom had COVID. They have used 400 milligram per day, and they were good. But they wanted to ask. They asked me why. I said, listen, I don't know really the situation of your mom, the clinical condition, but it's considered high dose. So we came down. Right now we are working with the this one. So we are giving the animal
An inhaler.
inhaler. It has something which goes in the animal. So a company has designed it for us. If you have looked at our second study with the apelin, which is a protein, and it came up with the CBD, is very anti-inflammatory, really. The company named the inhaler Apelin DX. So this is an inhaler. We want to take it for the human trial, but we have applied for that. But we use this now instead of injection. We use this, so our study is more adaptable to human. Now we use this for the mouse, actually, and it has been very good, as good as injection. So
and that's what you're looking at for a delivery device for the COVID therapy too, as well, in your study with COVID.
Exactly, yes. So we have different. We have full spectrum. We have mixed with CBC and CBD. We have CBD alone, isolate. So we have all different type of it. So,
do you think those human trials will be happening relatively soon? What do you think the timeline on that is?
We have we have had a very good feedback. We are trying to have a multi-center. One is in Augusta University. One is will be in Houston, Texas, and we are working on one in Toronto. We want to start together, but we just got the draft back from the initial review. So hopefully we got a very good feedback. Awesome. We are very, very optimistic. I'm not talking about hopeful, because I don't believe in being hopeful in science. In science, yes, we are not hopeful, because when you are hopeful, you don't have any resources. You just hope something happens. But we are optimistic in science. We have resources and we want to use that. So we are very optimistic. The feedback is very good. I mean, it is very small study. It is 40 to 60 patients.
Cool.
In 2 centers. And then that's how they agree with it, really. And then it will be in the clinic. We have a very good consent and very good educational process. And we want to start that. As soon as we get that, really, we are talking about 3-4 months, hopefully. And then as soon as we get the data from that, then we will go for bigger study, which that one is between 200 to 300 patients.
Cool.
So we will see. Yeah.
This is very exciting stuff.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yes.
So back to our little mouse with the.
We are just sorry. We are working on a nasal spray, because this really was designed originally for the respiratory system. So nasal spray go more direct to the to the brain. So we believe that may be better. So we are working on a nasal spray for this.
That's similar to what they're developing for Sativex, I think, is a nasal spray.
Yes,
yes.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, cool.
So back to our little mouse, taking 400 or 500 milligrams a day in human version. So this little mouse who did so well, that should have been all over front page news all over the world. Do you think that little mouse or a patient would need ongoing CBD medicine after the initial high dose period to maintain the good results?
That's a very good question. We don't have the long-term study, really. We don't know what happens. We haven't. We have a model which we are treating the mouse for certain developmental process. So we feed the mice from the embryonic stage. So we are looking at it up to you can say from the embryonic stage in human, if you compare it with human, to 40 years old. So we have looked at it, we have treated them every day, and we look at the behavior. But specifically for the disease, say individual with the disease, we don't know really. We haven't done, because as soon as we saw the improvement and we saw the, our resources are very limited. So we had to terminate the study and go through the body, basically take out
Yeah.
the tissue and look at those things. So we had to stop at the point, and the protocol, when they approve it here, because it goes through the ethics and animal protocols, so we have to justify it, how long we need it, and they don't want animal to be subjected to any further unnecessary thing. So the main goal for our study was to see the effect and then show the evidence, basically. That is, your question is very valid. It is our one of our strategic goal, actually, to see, okay, then after this, what happens really? Does it go back to that status, or it gets improvement, gets better and better?
Yeah, is it a cure or is it a treatment, for the long-term effects? Yeah.
Is it, well, it is, I think it is more than symptomatic effect, quite, based on data we have, it is really goes to the fix the underlying reason for the disease. It is deeper than just, because all medication right now, especially for Alzheimer, is really mainly, and ARDS is the same, is symptomatic. It is not really something which goes to the underlying factors. This one, I think, is deeper because, again, based on what you mentioned, it affects the whole immune system. It affects the endocannabis system, which endocannabis system itself has a huge potential in our body, and it gets affected directly and indirectly by phytocannabinoids, by these cannabinoids from the plant. Yes, and our body produces cannabis, cannabinoids. So definitely there is a reason. It's not just there because they didn't have anything else to put there. No, there is a use for this receptor, very important receptor, part of the G-coupled protein receptor system. CB1 for sure is, associated, and it is one of the main receptor for psychoactive effect, and which can be used in the very regulated, I'm saying again, but can be used for the pain management. And then we have the CB2, which, for example, cannabichromine is very directly goes to the CB2. And also CBD affects it indirectly, because when you, for example, CBD goes through TRPV1, which is a calcium channel in the body. When the calcium channel get activated, then CB2 get affected, basically. When CB2 goes up, then we have more cannabinoids in the body, 2-AG and anandamide, and those get activated. So it is a chain, it is a cascade, which that's why, while it is exciting and encouraging, in the meantime, it's, I don't call it scaring, but it's also challenging how to regulate this powerful potential, beneficial potential, to use it really, not to in the basically building and improvement, not in the destruction. It can be, we don't know really, as you mentioned, one of the aspects, what is the long term? We don't know yet, but for the short term, we have had a good response.
Yes, very, very good response. And I mean, my limited experience, like with my mom and other people living with dementia, they don't have that much longer to live unless something changes, of course.
Absolutely. You are very right in terms of justification for it, and also the exigency of it. Absolutely. I think I agree with you. Yes.
Yeah.
So is that just before we move on, is what I'm hearing is that the cannabinoids actually will help your own system create more endogenous cannabinoids. So the phytocannabinoids like CBC, stimulating those receptors, and then basically not only adds cannabinoids, but it also just stimulates our own body to create our own.
Absolutely. The human body as a whole, the human body, especially the immune system. So we have few big systems in our body, which immune system is one of them. In immune system is very amazing system, because when one part of it doesn't work properly or overworking, The other part either covered for it or they lower their productivity. So it is balanced. So immune system actually goes back. You, Chela, showed me something very nice actually. Yes, it is the immune, but it is a scale, exactly. That's why they call it immune balance. If you go back 3,000 years ago, the basic of the modern medicine, which is a Greek medicine really, they have two words, very simple. They say healing and balance. So in everything, it is not only for medicine. They have this in their philosophy, in your daily life, in your actions, in your talking, in your eating, everything. If you go back to these advanced diet forms, they say portion control. Portion control is balance, basically.
Yes.
Eat everything in balance. Do everything in balance.
Yes.
Immune system is exactly the same. So when one portion goes out of the balance, for example, when T cells go down, for example, in HIV patients, you see the T cell, CD4 T cell come down, CD8 T cell goes up. So still it is one of the biggest, we have had all this advancement in HIV treatment, but still we don't know why when CD4 comes down, CD8 goes up. Is it because CD4, because the CD8 sees the opportunity and they are opportunistic, they want to come up? Or maybe they feel their brother doesn't, their cousin doesn't feel good. CD4 is low, so let me cover for it. So they go up and they're working on it. So when you stimulate, when you manipulate one part of immune system, which CBD does that, when it downregulates something, it has a big effect on the other things. So it is immune regulator. It tries to bring back the homeostasis. So from the dysregulation to the balance.
Yeah.
So yes, one portion of the body get affected, the others immediately you see the reflection in them. Yes.
Great.
So this sort of brings us to another one of your studies, targeting the endocannabinoid system. The review, a predictive, preventive, and personalized medicine-directed approach to the management of brain pathologies. So cannabis is the perfect embodiment of personalized medicine because everyone's endocannabinoid system is different, everyone's balance is different.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about some of your findings from the review article published last year in the EPMA journal.
Yes. So yes, that's in EPMA journal, which they are focusing on the 3 Ps basically. One is preventive, predictive, and personalized medicine.
Yes.
So our post-modern life really is going towards the personalized, what they call it precision medicine.
Yes.
One hat doesn't fit everybody really. It is not like that anymore. And also technology has had so many beneficial and non-beneficial for us, but like everything in the world, including medicine, everything is about risk and benefits. Which one is higher? If I take this medicine, is the risk is higher than benefit or not? So technology is the same. So two things. One is the postmodern lifestyle, and one is which is related to technology, has made us we have to use these two advantages really. So these two, the postmodern life is a consequence of the technology really, which has come. So we are able to have our own system of treating our body really based on a very well regulated system through your physician, through your dietitian. They can talk to you remotely like we're talking. Telemedicine has come now, teledentistry has come. So for that reason, cannabis, medicinal cannabis is a very, very special compound because it's safe, it's natural, it has a potential, it has, yes, it is still in the beginning of the road, but we know it is a bright road. We know, hopefully it goes faster on this road, so to get to the destination. So we have a compound like this, which can be used. It has a potential to become one of the elements in the PPPM, basically, the personalized medicine. Yes, if you know enough through your physician about your clinical condition of your body and the capacity of your body. That's why in that review we are talking about strategizing basically a system to make this really a regulated delivery system for this, which on the personal and individual basis, based on your own condition. And for example, we have a strategy in treating HIV. It's called HEART, which has been very extremely powerful, which is a very aggressive advanced treatment of the retroviruses. They call it HAART. It is HAART. Now they are playing with the terminology. It turns to the STAR, which calls strategic treatment of retroviruses. Means, for example, what works for the Mr. A doesn't work for Mrs. A. We cannot treat A and B exactly the same way. That's why, for example, STAR is a form of the precision medicine, and CBD specifically can be used very nicely in this system. That's why we're trying to educate. Actually, it is for the field of expert. It is, a little bit diverted from public. Not because anything public cannot take it. No, public actually, it is for public, but we think that is specific, which they can make decision really, especially in the Europe, because the EPMA is for European Preventive, Predictive, 3Ps Medicinal Association. So EPMA is a consulting body for the European Union. So that paper really targeting the policymaker to tell them how a compound like CBD has the receptor in the body, has the potential. This is the scientific facts. This is, we are not conducting any study ourselves. We are just reporting what has been done in the world. We have put them together. Of course, we have put some of our data there too. Sure. And then we try to basically mainly educate the field really that there is this potential in the body. There is we have a saying, old saying here. They say, when you see the smoke, look for fire. Sure. So we have the receptor in the body. We have the, type of cannabinoids is producing in the body. So why it is produced? Why the brain has this widespread presence of the CB1? Why CB2 is mainly on the white blood cells, which are inflammatory cells. So this is a very simple observation which we have missed. Why it is not mainly on the endothelial cell? Because it wants to bring down the inflammation.
Wow.
So these are certain things which in that paper really we try to bring the attention to what is. Sometimes they say the trees didn't let me to see the forest. Yes. So this is exactly that. The trees in our body is amazing system. We have this natural power in our body. And still, we don't know really what endocannabis system does. I mean, why it is there? Why thousands of years? I mean, the last changes in human has been between 6,000 to 7,000 years ago. Still, the endocannabis system is there. It's not only in human. We are working on the animal system. For example, the equine system. It has a huge, sensitive, advanced endocannabis system. Why horse needs the endocannabis system? Because it has a lot of balance. It has a lot of potential. It has been used by humans as a main, transport for so many years. So for the pressure to control this pressure, to control the diseases. So there is an evolutionary reason for this. And so it is there. So we better use it. Otherwise, we lose it, basically.
Exactly. Absolutely. Well, I think the 80 years of prohibition are why we don't know so much. In these...
Not so much fluctuation. Sometimes they ban it. Sometimes they bring it back. Sometimes they ban it.
Oh, and studying. Right.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, the AMA actually was appalled when they came out with the Marijuana Tax Act.
originally.
Originally,
Yeah.
they were like, hey, wait a minute, we use this.
Back.
There's no doubt that the regulatory system for certain part of it has to be there, but the rest of it really we have to explore it. I mean, cautious is different from fear. So
Yeah.
we can't be fearful, but in the meantime, we don't want to lose our cautious. Yes, we
Yeah.
are cautious. We will
Yeah.
be careful, but
Mhm.
that doesn't mean that we should be fearful. No.
Right, right.
So yeah.
In the review article, did you notice any potential therapeutic interventions by endocannabinoids in dementia?
Well, we have alluded to it really in that review article, but that was mainly on the neurologic system. So naturally, it goes back to dementia, of course. So the one of the major part of the neurologic system is related to the age-related diseases, ADR, ARD. So our community, our world is getting old. You see on official things when people talking, they say 70 years old now is equal to 45 in 50 years ago. That's very true, because right now we have the gerontology is a big now field which dealing with the age-related diseases in human. Now they have come and they are trying to find a way to give you the two type of aging. Age is one is your chronologic age, which you are 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, is irreversible. It comes, you cannot do anything about it. But then we have the biologic age, which it is in our hand. So what is biologic age is? Biologic age, usually the senescence, which people are passing 90 and above, they go to the 100. Usually when somebody passes 95, his or her biologic age is 25. So that is because everything is healthy. That's why the chronologic age is usually opposite to the biologic age. When it is low, the biologic age is high. So when somebody dies of diabetes in 45, the biologic age is 120.
Right. Maybe your dad's right, Chella. He may live to 160. Chella's dad is like,
biologic age is our health measure.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah.
So now the medicine, especially gerontologists, they try to bring that in the patient profile. What is your chronologic age? What is your biologic age? And CBD, we have evidence that especially with the affecting and this is very directly and indirectly connected to the neurologic system. How you take the stress. Stress, one of the reason you get aged, basically. So mitochondria get affected, the cell get affected. So CBD can affect these things, can have impact on these biologic age. So that's why the neurologic system, which our review is about, is definitely directly and indirectly affects the, it implies to the dementia and other things like Parkinson, like Huntington disease.
ALS. ALS, right?
Those type of diseases, yes.
Dr. Baban, if you had a loved one that was diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment or early Alzheimer's, what would you do? How might you treat it? I know inflammation is a big thing. Would you be intermittent fasting and doing a veg keto diet? Would you add cannabis therapeutics? What would you do with your loved one, with your mom, with your grandmother?
If I have a loved one really with the dementia, this is my personal.
Yes, personal.
Comment. I don't want to have any, recommendation based on the field, but based on my personal comment, which I have it, it is inevitable. It has been affected by my, of course, by my skill and expertise. I know that, so I'm convinced. I will definitely treat him or her with the CBD. I not only with that, but I will definitely incorporate it in the depending on the, again, clinical
Of course.
condition. Yes.
What else would you do?
CBD is
and
one of the option for me, definitely. And I have taken these myself. I have taken these just to test, because we want to see what the I don't know how normal I am, but I try. We try to see what it does to a body with no obvious clinical symptoms. So we have tried it. Me, some of my colleagues, we have tested ourselves, and we have seen the very good beneficial effect. So yes, definitely. The short answer is yes, I will. That's my first one, really. It's better than the, yes, of course, the diet, not only a specific system of diet or brand system or anything. Again, healing and balance. I try to bring that balance to the diet, but in the meantime, while I am relying on the medicine, what we know, the drugs, the symptomatic drugs, of course, but also I will definitely consider and apply the CBD.
And all really with the goal of reducing that chronic inflammation that is the is the source of so many diseases, not just neurodegenerative diseases.
Absolutely, yes, no doubt.
And like Hippocrates said, let food be thy medicine and medicine thy food.
That's right. Absolutely.
We start there. So I wonder if you're familiar with a Scripps research study published in the Journal of Molecular Pharmaceutics in August 2006 called A Molecular Link Between the Active Component of Marijuana and Alzheimer's Disease Pathology, which is a very scary title.
Yes.
But the study used computer modeling and biochemical assays in the lab, and it showed that THC inhibits acetylcholinesterase better than currently available acetylcholinesterase inhibitors being used to treat Alzheimer's. The study said THC, quote, may provide an improved therapeutic for Alzheimer's disease that would treat both the symptoms and progression of the disease, like CBD did in your study with the mice.
Yes. So, yes, the study, it is 2006. It's one very good study, really. They have done it. Their model is a bit different. It is kind of, yes, as you said, it's mixed with the, computational system they have. And then they have loaded the exactly the structure from the mouse. And it is kind of ex vivo. And so the THC, I personally, we need more research on the THC system, but the data is very solid. The data is, very encouraging, and you see the result, and it is very, strong, credible study. However, we still don't know that if that model, we bring it in a living environment. There are so many factors. It is exactly like when you translate it from the animal to human and vice versa, really. There are so many variables. However, study is even a glimpse of light, small glimpse of light is helping us to know this, puzzle better. There is no doubt that, listen, the THC is relying on the endocannabis system, is on the CB1. CB1 is widespread in the body, and especially in the brain. There is definitely, there is a, reason why it is there. But that is, again, it has to be used very carefully, exactly for this reason, because it is really affects the body, and that's why they call it psychoactive compound, really. So it needs more study, but specifically for that study, myself, really, I am. I love this study. I think it is very exciting, but I think it is a very good guideline for us to go more about it. We need more research on that. Although
we do need more studies.
Although it is 15 years ago, really. I mean, that study is on. I mean, it is beautiful. It's beautiful study in two aspects when you look at it. One, the concept really. Two, the use of the psychoactive product, and three, use of the artificial intelligence. So this is the three aspect which, after 15 years, now we are trying to include the artificial intelligence in our medicinal cannabis system. So they have done it 15 years ago.
Yeah, you think they'd have they've gotten a little further in the research in AI. Yeah,
I think conceptually they have been and they are way ahead of us. So still we are catching up with what they have proposed really, and we need to test exactly what they have got in their model, I think, in a more established in vivo model in time. And then definitely the data is intriguing. It's more than intriguing, because now we have more evidence on their study, and
mouse models too, I think.
Yeah, and then we know more really about the effect of THC. And I think the regulation mainly is because we know it works.
Yeah.
But I think
good point.
That for that reason also we have to be careful how to use it. I think that's it. I think that thing needs to be corrected, to tell people, listen, this works. That's why instead of forcing them not to use it, yes, this works. Let us to come up with a guideline how to use it.
Well, here's the thing, President.
I'm sorry. Can I interject before
Yes.
we go there? We're working with about 50 people in Northern California, mostly in assisted living facilities, that are taking low dose CBD THC cannabis oil capsules in their assisted living facilities. Some of our clients use a 1-to-1 5 milligram CBD THC. Some of them use a 2-to-1 6 and 3, and some of them use a 20-to-1 CBD to THC. And they all, every single one of them, are benefiting greatly. If you ever want humans to study, call me. I got a whole bunch of them.
Definitely. We are going to that direction. Absolutely. And I appreciate it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's very fascinating. Yeah.
It's amazing. I'd love to talk to you some other time about it, because we're in the middle of this right now. But it's incredible what is happening in actual reality. Low dose, starting very, very low. And if you need to increase, go very, very slow. Because, of course, as you know, older people are far more sensitive to THC than younger people. But Dave, please go ahead.
Well, just, to continue on that, I mean, we have a little more leeway in California. It's been here for a while, and the medical has been, these places up here in Northern California have been implementing this medicine for like 15 years. So under the radar, but now it's, pretty much outside the radar. They're becoming more open to talking about it. And it's really, we really do need to do a cohort study of these folks, because it is very effective, especially reducing polypharmacy and many other things. And of course, Joe Biden now is calling for to create a new medical research agency to find breakthrough treatments for both cancer and Alzheimer's. He's actually mentioned Alzheimer's. Do you think this might qualify as something that should be looked at by this agency that's going to look through breakthrough treatments?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think, as you mentioned correctly, the government has put federal money into the aging, especially in the aging, and also cancer, absolutely. And both of them, we have at least at our level, we have a strong data that for both of them, for those reasons I mentioned it to you, the medicinal cannabis can be absolutely, helpful and effective. And I think, and that's why NIH has the institute now for the, it's very interesting that the federal agency has basically an institute to study the medicinal cannabis, and there are still some challenges outside.
And they've known forever. They've had the patent. It's expired, but they've known forever what they can use it for.
Exactly. And then the Epidiolex is approved by the FDA for the for certain epilepsy condition, and we have that. But yes, absolutely, it is qualified, and I think we have different institute in NIH which they are interested in this type of studies. For example, alternative and integrative medicine. There is an institute for that within the NIH, and narcotic, institute. They are interested in that. CBD and especially CBD, not THC, but CBD has a big, potential. It's not new for opioid crisis. The receptors are very similar, so why not? So those are the potential apart from, but cancer.
So many possible solutions. So many possible solutions.
But specifically for your point, the cancer and aging, 100% for sure. I mean, our last two papers really have been very good evidence that we have it. We have it in the different. We have tried it in different model of cancer. Melanoma for sure. We have published paper. We have a funding on it. We have other model of the cancer. We are trying head and neck cancer. We are trying, and we have had an amazing result. We will come out very, shortly with those data. And yes, so it's exciting. It's exciting.
Yes.
Very exciting.
I think we should get
optimistic.
Get President Biden one of those inhalers. It might give him a little.
I 100% agree with you.
Yes.
Yes.
What are your thoughts about other Schedule I therapies being studied for Alzheimer's disease and other things like psilocybin or LSD?
I don't know really for those. Again, I'm saying I am a scientist, and I am, I believe in science. I think it is the only, how can I say it? There is something when I was in London during my Ph.D., there was a little poster it was from one of these biotech companies. They had put a calendar on the wall, and it was there. It says, in God we trust, the rest must show the data. So we are scientists, really. I believe in science. I think that's the ultimate solution for our problems, to trust science and translate the science into common sense. So I think science is here to help us. Whatever comes out with the scientific evidence, it has to be taken to consideration, taken seriously, with open-minded, criticism, constructive criticism. If there is a flaws with it, if there is a problem with it, criticize it, logically, and it is an exchange of the idea and concepts, and hopefully out of the product would be something useful for humanity, and that's the main goal, really. There is no one likes, for example, because cannabis is green and the other one is red. We don't care about that. We see the effect. Doesn't matter. Any other Schedule I, really. We are piece of this puzzle. We are working on small piece in this world. Even if you look at the solar system, when you look at it, sometimes I look at it, our Earth with all this problem, war, pandemic, everything. When you look at it, even you don't see it in the galaxy. Where are we with all this, infrastructure, everything?
Well, maybe we might find out very soon if the aliens are having similar problems.
Science is bigger than that. So, that part, really, I don't have expertise in that part. But when a compound, when a protein, when a molecule has effect, we have to find out about it, because that's why it has effect. I mean, when it has effect in our body, it is like a part of your home, which you say, oh, I don't go there because I don't know what's going on. So it's part of your house. So you have to go and see what is it doing. There is a button in your house. You want to see what light it turned on. I mean, what is the use of it? If you just ignore it, that doesn't work. I mean, that is there, and somebody, one of your guests, one day come, either wanted or unwanted, take that, click that key and maybe your house be exploded. So that's why we have diseases. So we have to know what's going on in our body.
Yeah.
And drugs, absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of other pandemics, we have this other little pandemic going on right now, and you've done some study on that recently in the news. We don't want to get too deep into that because we're running out of time. But how do you feel about this research? And do you think that CBD? I mean, this has been talked about a little bit since the beginning. There has been some other research done in Israel and in Canada. Do you think CBD could play a real role in helping to treat or maybe even prevent the spread of COVID?
Yes and no. The no part, COVID is a very complex disease. The SARS-CoV-2 is a very complex virus which has learned every single trick to evade our defenses.
Like Alzheimer's.
That makes it very complex. While we know it is a virus, we know everything about it, we don't know how it attacks us. That's the point. It's very smart. It's lazy, but it's smart. However, when you're talking about the COVID is a two steps disease. In the first part, when the virus goes inside our body from the beginning, when we expose to the virus cannot stay out of the cells of our body. It is depending on the living cell. It has to go inside the cell. So from the exposure time till what we call it, the starting at what they call it cytokine store, that is when we need a good, robust immune system. So that is when we need the inflammation to go up. So good inflammation is acute, quick, and effective. So it shouldn't go more than 96 hours, really. That's why when inflammation goes up, so for example, you hit your finger with a just needle, it starts 4 signs of inflammation: redness, pain, pulse, swelling, and then you see the pulse, and then after that, after you put a band-aid on it, you feel better, it goes down. Tomorrow morning, you have a little bit of burning sensation, and that's it. It is gone. That's a good inflammation. That's what we call it in 3 words: first line of defense. When a virus goes in our body, your body starts, running nose, tearing, coughing, fever. All of them are natural immunity, basically. They sweating, they send the virus out, so your body gets. So that's part of inflammatory response too. If it goes beyond 4 days, 8 days, 12, that's a chronic inflammation. That's the problem. So in the beginning of COVID, we need cytokine breeze. Okay, we need breeze. And that is when the inflammation is needed. That is when actually the CBD may hurt. Because it may not let the activated cell properly hit it, because it is a potent anti-inflammatory. However, when it turns from a breeze to a storm, when that inflammation goes out of control, it becomes unleashed pit bull, basically. It attacks your body. Then that is when CBD is perfect. That is when it brings it back. So our model in that study is exactly when it starts ARDS. So it is when the acute respiratory distress syndrome happens. So it is when the body is overwhelmed with the virus attack, when the immune balance is gone, when the cytokine instead of picogram is produced in milligram, and not only for few hours, it goes for several hours, then your lung is, destructured, and we have the problem. That is when CBD helps. So to answer your question, the COVID is a 2-step disease. It depends what time it is. If it is in the beginning, no. We based on our, when I say no, there is nothing really for certain in science.
Right, sure.
Based on our current evidence, we believe in the beginning CBD may not help, even may hurt. But when it goes to that stage, which patient goes to the ICU under a ventilator, and we need something to down-regulate, that's what so-called cytokine storm. CBD is ideal treatment. It removes the pain, it removes the inflammation, it gives balance back to immune system. So absolutely. So that is why I said yes and no about the COVID.
Right.
And it is not only CBD. It goes back again to other drugs. Sometimes you hear conflicting reports. For example, they say this drug worked here, this drug didn't work here. It's always depending on, especially about the COVID, is timing. What time you give it to the patient, what age you give it to the patient. So definitely based on our model and based on our data, at the last stage, what we call it ARDS, which is the main cause of death in COVID,
Right.
CBD is extremely beneficial.
That's right. That's encouraging.
Absolutely.
Did you try giving the mice from the very beginning the CBD? Just because I'm wondering, as a non-scientist, obviously, with that balance thing.
No, not because we didn't want to. We couldn't, because in the state of Georgia, only 3 places have access to the actual virus. So we couldn't, because that's why we picked the last stage. Actually, that would be interesting. We are working with a group now. Hopefully, if they come and they deliver their promises, we want to treat the mice with actual virus to see if really it prevents from the entry.
Cool. So from the beginning, CBD also with the virus.
So
cool.
There are 3, 4. We want to do 2 studies. One is preventive, treat them from the beginning, and then infect them.
Right.
And one is therapeutic, when we give them the virus first, then we start treatment. So, yes, this is.
Got to follow that.
I think 2 studies have been done in vitro. They have shown that it blocks the entry. Very limited study. I think we will be the first, hopefully, that we show the effect. We don't know yet, but we had the limitation. We couldn't have access to the virus. That's why we mimicked the last stage, and it is very effective in the last stage. But hopefully, we see the same effect in the beginning. So we will see.
Awesome. Yep. So your real world humans, just quick little follow up on what you were saying about your inhaler. That's interesting to me. I'm excited to keep following your work. And I'm excited to hear more about the real world humans using that inhaler.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. I will keep you updated, and I will let you and Dave know about it. And
great.
As soon as we get all the approval, everything, actually, I will let you know. Maybe you can help us also there. We will see.
I'll do whatever it takes to help science.
Absolutely. I mean, we'd love to be involved in something like that. Finding people or whatever it takes.
You asked me a question in your email about the language. I am from Iran originally.
Okay.
So I know Persian and Kurdish both.
Oh, cool.
So
Kurdish.
if you know, I'm Kurdish and I am from Iran, so I know Persian and Kurdish. Wow. If you had any, need for those group of people, Farsi speaking and Kurdish speaking, I would be happy to help. Yeah.
Maybe, how about just real quick in Farsi, what would you say to your loved one who was diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment or Alzheimer's?
Sure.
And in the response, give a little bit of your background so that, my friend who is going to play it to her grandmother will know that, you're a doctor, you're a researcher, blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely.
And what you think. Okay, great.
So I start speaking Farsi now.
Okay? Please.
Yes, sure. من دکتر بابک بابان هستم. من ایمونولوژیست هستم و یه سری تحقیقات رو روی به اصطلاح مدیسینال کانابیس انجام دادیم که همون در واقع همپ یا کنفه. ما متوجه شدیم که یکی از ترکیباتی که توی این گیاه هست، گیاه کنابیس، خیلی میتونه کمک بکنه به بیماری فراموشی و آلزایمر. بنابراین دیتاهای ما هستش، میتونید بخونید و اگه هر سوالی هم باشه در خدمتتون هستیم. با تشکر و آرزوی سلامتی. Thank you.
Excellent. Now, do you want to do the same thing in Kurdish? Okay, do it.
سلام بو گلایک من دکتر بابک بابانم، من خلقی اهل سنندجم سنا و من همه دانشگاه آگوستا جورجیا لامریکا، ایمونولوژیستم و یک سری تحقیق من اما انجام داده لبن گیاه کنابیسو که در واقع لکولیار کنفی پیژن یکی لترکیباتی به نام CBD فرا مؤثر بوده لبیماری فراموشی و آلزایمر. خوشحالم هر سوالی که دانست اگر نام من بن لی بابک بابان استادیگر منتی و مطالعات و انجام دادم. خوش و خرم و موفق. Thank you.
Awesome. I thank you so much. This is going to really help a lot of people.
Dr. Baban, thank you so much for your time today. This
Absolutely. Anytime. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Very good. It's been really great. Thank you.
And we will be in touch. Thank you so much.
Yes, for sure.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Thanks for joining us for Cannabis Helps Dementia. Be sure to download, rate, and review us on iTunes or your favorite podcasting network.
And please share this podcast with anyone you know in relationship with dementia.
Do you want to tell your story of how cannabis helps dementia? Leave us a voice message at anchor.fm/cannabishelpsdementia. Or you can drop us a note or connect with us on the socials.
Check out the Society of Cannabis Clinicians website to find real medical professionals familiar with cannabis medicine in your area or online.
Because you remember, we're not doctors, just family caregivers turned advocates.
And don't forget, download, like, and share what you learned. Cannabis helps dementia.
Why don't you get wise? Get up and get out. Get rid of that frown that's been dragging you down and get up in the air. Just pretend that you can fly. You'll never know if you can.